adults conducted for CBS. The survey results come less than a month after state election officials certified the Regulate, Control, and Tax Cannabis Act of 2010 for the November 2010 ballot. The measure would allow adults 21 years or older to possess, share, or transport up to 1 ounce of cannabis for personal consumption and to cultivate the plant in an area not more than 25 square feet per residence. Among respondents, support for the proposal was strongest among males, 65%, liberals at 77%, and those in between the ages of 18 and 34, 74%. In a separate national CBS poll of 858 adults, 55% of respondents residing in the West Coast said they back legalization, and only 41% opposed the data. Nationwide, the poll reported that 44% of Americans favor legalizing and the use of cannabis, and 51% oppose it. In December, a national poll of 1,004 likely voters by Angus Reid reported the first time ever that just over half of the Americans endorsed marijuana legalization. A separate poll published this week by the Associated Press and CNBC reported that 55% of Americans oppose the complete legalization and use of marijuana for any purpose. However, 56% of respondents also stated that they believe their regulations on marijuana should be the same or less strict than those for alcohol.
Now our next story from Washington, D.C. The City Council unanimously backs medical marijuana dispensary plan. Washington, D.C., the members of the District of Columbia Council voted unanimously in favor of legalization that sets to establish medical marijuana dispensaries in the District of Columbia. Under the proposal, which is expected to receive final approval from the Council next month, City Health Department officials would regulate up to 5 facilities to dispense medical cannabis to authorized patients. Medical dispensaries would be limited to growing no more than 95 plants on site at any one time. Patients would be able to obtain up to 2 ounces of dispensary-provided marijuana per month, but would not be permitted to privately cultivate their own supply. Low-income patients would be allowed to purchase medical marijuana at a greatly reduced cost under the plan. The legislation seeks to implement compounds of Initial 59, a 1998 D.C. ballot measure that garnered 69% of the vote. However, until this year, D.C. lawmakers have been barred from installing the measure because of a Barr amendment was what it was, a congressional ban on the measure at the time. Congress lifted its ban late this year. Once approved, Congress has 30 days to either approve or reject the measure.
Matthew Lawrence says he has created California's first virtual dispensary, one that will deliver actual marijuana to medical users across the Golden State. We're the first totally online dispensary, says Lawrence, a real estate developer and property manager who also used to grow weed for a Bay Area medical pot cooperative. By promising to ship up to 8 ounces of marijuana overnight, Lawrence's C420online.com is testing the boundaries of pot distribution, even for California's manic medical marijuana market. The Online Patients Collective had its public launch last weekend at the International Hemp and Cannabis Expo with a splashy booth, flashing video screens, lush plants, and bowls filled with exotic marijuana buds. C420 says that it signed up already 1,000 medical marijuana users with a physician's recommendation and yearning for convenient home deliveries. It promises to ship pot only to Californians and only after verifying that their doctor's recommendations are valid. And the recipients must also be California residents. The collective's operating model has one glaring difference from another online pot site billed as the Compassionate Care Marketplace. Plainview Systems offers a web meeting place that hooks up pot cultivators, dispensaries, and other marijuana businesses, but it never handles or ships any of the product. However, Lawrence's C420 collective, which claims to operate as a non-profit patients collective, has a staff of pot growers and bud tenders. Lawrence promises to ship overnight with a supervised, traceable chain of custody for marijuana, weed edibles, and carefully packed seedlings for pot home growing. C420 has even set up a shipping system and promised a 100% refund policy for any dissatisfied customers, as long as they haven't smoked or consumed more than 1/3 of a gram of the product. There are a few notable changes from the operation. It can't use the U.S. Postal Service because of the small matter of federal laws against possessing, distributing, or transporting marijuana. C-420 also can't use companies such as Federal Express, which may divert in-state deliveries to an out-of-state storing facility. So Lawrence said he is contracting with a network of overnight couriers familiar with handling and shipping pharmaceutical products in California. He declines to identify who he is working with, but he contends the shipments are supervised and meticulously tracked and that the network is lawful and safe. We talked to 3 different lawyers, said Lawrence, said the operation closely follows state guidelines for medical marijuana collectives. This is something with a lot of gray area, but he said they're pretty dark gray and we should be good.
NORML remembers the Hemperor, Jack Herer. Washington, D.C., Jack Herer, the noted author and activist who was known by marijuana law reformers worldwide as the Hemperor, died last Thursday as a result of complications stemming from a September heart attack. He was 70 years old. Herer had spent the better part of the past 4 decades advocating for the legalization of cannabis, particularly the non-psychoactive variety of the plant. He received worldwide recognition in the late 1980s and early 90s for the publication of his seminal work, The Emperor Wears No Clothes, which sold over 600,000 copies, making it the most widely read marijuana law reform title ever published. The book's tagline, How Hemp Can Still Save the World, introduced hundreds of thousands of readers to the environmental and industrial use of cannabis, which in turn relaunched the modern-day hemp movement and global hemp industry. While researching the book, Herer unearthed a copy of the long-lost United States Department of Agriculture film Hemp for Victory, which documented the federal government's previously support for domestic hemp cultivation. Herer's dedication to cannabis activism was the subject of the 1999 film documentary The Emperor of Hemp. Shortly following the release of the film, Jack suffered a stroke, which temporarily limited his speech and mobility. However, by mid-2000, he appeared to have made almost a full recovery from his illness, a feat he accredited to the power of hemp's therapeutic properties. Herer just finished speaking at a marijuana law reform event, the Portland Hemp Stalk, in September when he suffered his heart attack.
President Obama's administration now has the opportunity to reclassify cannabis under the Controlled Substances Act to make it consistent with state medical marijuana policies and that of its own Department of Justice. After nearly 8 years of agency review, including an analysis of existing scientific evidence by the Department of Health and Human Services, the petition is finally approaching its ultimate phase. The final decision on rescheduling the petition will be made by the Federal Drug Administration Agency. However, the DEA cannot place marijuana in a more restrictive schedule than recommended by the HHS. Recently nominated DEA Administrator Michael Lionheart will make the decision on rescheduling marijuana at some point in the near future. John Getman, the spokesman for the Coalition for Rescheduling Cannabis, states that rescheduling marijuana is an urgent priority that needs the administration's immediate attention. Medical marijuana patients have waited too long for the federal government to catch up to its scientific research and state laws that recognize the therapeutic use of cannabis, which is safe, effective, and most importantly, not criminally immoral. We demand that federal policymakers recognize and accept their responsibility to regulate marijuana under the provision of the Controlled Substances Act. The Controlled Substances Act classifies marijuana and other drugs into various schedules. Marijuana is currently classified as a Schedule I substance, designated as having a high potential for abuse, no currently accepted medical use in the United States, and a lack of accepted safety for use under any medical supervision. The CSA provides a procedure to have scheduling classification changed in response to scientific research and other relevant factors, such as recognition of a drug's accepted medical use and its dependence liability as compared to other controlled substances. Schedule I substances include heroin, GHB, and MDMA. Cocaine and OxyContin are both Schedule II substances, which allow for severely restricted medical use while maintaining the assertion that the abuse may lead to severe psychological and sociological dependence. Marinol, a synthetic form of THC that is widely prescribed medicinally,